video on a simple project. So far, we figure out where the main sewer line goes, and then we connected all the fixtures to the main sanitary sewer line. Now let's get the nodes together and start making things a little more clear. I'm gonna grab one of these nodes and bring it up here and start making notes. Item number one, water closet. Provide a 3-inch connection to sewer system and 2-inch connection to vent system. So that's the note for every toilet. Let's go over here and borrow a 1. And I'm gonna borrow this P1 as well. Put one at every toilet. So there's a toilet here. There's a toilet here. And there's a toilet here. And there's a toilet here. That's all the toilets. So let's make the arrow point where it needs to point. I'm going to point to the toilet drain that is in the ground, not the one that's in the wall, but the one that's in the ground. And I'm going to move this P1 here so it can be seen. What is this P1? Well, P1, it's part of the fixture schedule. So I'm going to open the schedule sheet, details and schedule sheet. It says P1 is a water closet, and it tells me manufacturer, model, accessories, and it has a description. So it's a tank type handicap toilet. I'm going to turn this one here to point at the drain that's in the center. Sometimes you can't point at the drain that's in the center because there'll be something in the way. And instead of redoing this again, for the sake of consistency, I'm going to do 1 and then copy it. I don't want to be too far from the fixture to where the arrow is really long, and I don't want to be too close to where this arrow is really short. In my mind, it seems like if I'm about one and a half times bigger than the circle with the arrow. So the arrow is slightly bigger than the circle, but not too much bigger than the circle. And I'm happy. I think it looks good in my mind. So I'm just going to copy this one here to there. And I didn't do that right because I didn't put a second drain on this toilet. So I'm just going to copy this one here. And I'm also going to copy the note from this circle to this circle. And that looks right. And instead of, well, I could just do this, rotate it. Now I take the end of the arrow to the center, and then I take it to the intersection. That way the arrow is going through the center. An imaginary line that continues where the arrow left off should pass through the center. I don't want the arrow to be here or even to the quadrant. I want the arrow to pass through the center of the circle. That's why I take it to the center and then I take it to that intersection. It looks better to me that way. Now, so that's all the toilets. What's note number 2? Lavatories. Lavatory, provide 2-inch connection to sewer and vent system. Well, lavatory is just a fancy name for a sink. And so let's see if we can find a P2, a number 2 with a P2. It's a number 2 with a P3, but we're going to copy it and fix that. So that's a lavatory. And I'm going to point close to the circle, but not right to it. And I'm going to change this to a P2. I kind of want my number to be coincide with a note wherever as much as possible. This one means one thing, and the P1 means one thing. But I think it's a better flow if they're similar. It's not the end of the world if you have a number 2 with a P5, because the number 2 corresponds with this note, and the P5 corresponds with this fixture schedule. So it's not always necessary that they match, but I like them to match. So 2 is a lavatory. And what I'm going to do here, instead of copying that, I'm just going to mirror it and see what happens. Because there's Because there's a sink on either side. There's a sink on either side, so I'm going to indicate that. Well, it's on top. It's on top of that one, so I'm going to have to adjust one or the other. Let me mirror this one, so it's kind of out of the way, and see what happens. See if it doesn't interfere with that one too much. And I'm okay with that, except with that one, it's in between those two lines, and it's not really going to show up. It's just going to be a whole bunch of thick lines when you print it, so that makes it a little better. I should slide these in a little bit, because I'm going to have to handle this urinal also. So I'm going to slide them a little bit that way, and then play with the arrows. I like the note to be just a little offset, so that the arrow is not perpendicular or horizontal or directly vertical. So it just has a bit of an angle. So it doesn't appear to be part of the geometry of the fixture. So I'm going to mirror that. And because there's 4 sinks, I'm going to copy these guys over to the next set of sinks right there. Well, now it's kind of too close to that line, so I'm going to mirror these 2 guys so that they're on the opposite side. And that looks a little better. I think that takes care of all the sinks except for the one in the private bathroom here. Normally, I like my notes to be inside of the room for clarity, but because the line goes through the room, I'm just going to put them off to the side a little bit. Take the head of the arrow and point at the circle, being careful not to touch it. And then the end of the arrow pass through the center, and then I'm going to trim it back. And then I'm going to move this note on the opposite side. So that's all the sinks. What's number 3? Well, number 3 is, well, I said sinks, but I mean lavatories, right? Number 3 is a sink. Well, what is a sink? When I say sink, I refer to kitchen sinks, bar sinks, and other sinks like that. This seems like a nice note that will fit just fine right there. And I'm going to put it there. And that would be a 3. Note number 3, fixture P3. Okay. 4, service sink. Service sink is a fancy name for a mop sink. There's one of those right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this guy from the center of the circle to the center of that circle. But remember I said I like my notes to be inside of the room. So I'm going to flip it. I'm going to mirror it so that the note is inside that room. And what happens is the P3 is kind of in the middle of those lines, so it's going to be hard to read. So I'm going to mirror it one more time this way so it's away from the wall. And I'm going to take the P3 and get it away from this wall here, more into the room so it can be read. But that's not a, this is a P3, the sink. This would be note number 4. 4. 5. I'm going to reverse these. I'm going to put the urinal next, and then the floor drain. Why I'm doing that is because the urinal is a fixture, so it have a P designation. The floor drain is not a fixture, it's a material, so it'll be in the materials list, not in the plumbing's material schedule, rather than in the plumbing fixture schedule. Other engineers put them all together, and that's fine. So number 5 is the urinal. I know there's a urinal here somewhere. I'm just going to mirror this one. This time, I'm going to use the center of this line. And I'm going to do it, make sure I do it perpendicular. And it's pointing at it real nice. So this is 5, P5. P5. And I think I covered all the fixtures. The only thing here is, I guess, oh well, wait, no. Look at that, the water cooler, right? So again, I'm gonna move this out of the way and make the water cooler fixture 6. 6P6, note 6 fixture P6. I'm just gonna copy this guy. I want the circle to not be on top of anything if at all possible. I want the arrow to point at the fixture drain. And this will be note number 6 that refers to the water cooler, and that will be fixture P6 on the fixture schedule. So then 7, it's a floor drain. Well, I forgot the floor drains, so I'm gonna put a floor drain real quick. This on the plumbing legend, these are drawn at 1/8. So remember, if you copy this from here and you work at a quarter, remember to cut in size by half. But if you're working from a drawing that's similar, you can just copy the floor drain that's there, and it's already been sized to scale. Well, where does the floor drain go? It goes in the middle of that room. So I'm going to draw a diagonal line, and I'm going to put the floor drain in the center of that line. And I'll do the same to the other bathroom. And I'm going to copy that floor drain to the same spot. So now there's things on top of each other, and I'm going to have to fix that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect that floor drain. I'm going to connect that floor drain to the main sewer line. So I'll bore a line that already has a chamfer. Of course, it's super long, but I'm just going to stretch it right there. That way, I don't have to do the chamfer, and if I chamfer it, it's going to cut it short. I'm going to have to extend it. So there's that. So it looks like I'm going to have to move this a little bit. So I'll move this node out of the way a little bit. I'll reassign the arrow. And I'll move this out of the way a little bit. And I'm going to move the node that says floor drain. And the floor drain was note number 7. So I got to make sure I change that to 7. That arrow's a little bit too short. I mean, ever so slightly. So I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. And the reason probably was that short is because there wasn't room to make it bigger. But like I said, I want my arrow to be about 1.5 to 2 times big as the size of the circle. And this one's just about all the same size as the circle. So I'm going to make it just a little bigger. How I do that, I take it here, I stretch it from, say, a nearest point from there to the end of it, and that looks a little better. So let me do the drain line on the other side. I'm going to mirror this, hoping that the center lines of both rooms line up, which they should. And so this should land right on my floor drain. And it does. So let's clean this one up a little bit. I'm just going to erase that one and mirror the one I fixed earlier. There. And then I'm going to erase that. I'm going to erase that. And just copy the ones that I fixed earlier and then mirror them. So I'm going to copy them from the center of that floor drain to the center of that floor drain and do my mirror command and flip them over to the other side. And that looks good, except now this toilet note is kind of in the way. So I think if I just move this to the other side, it'll look fine. That's it, right? Well, almost, but not really. At the end of long lines, you got to have a clean out. So I'm going to borrow this clean out over here and put it at the end of this run, at the end of this run, and at the end of this run. Except these aren't grade cleanouts, G for grade. These are wall cleanouts. I'm going to change them to W's. Next, I'm going to put them inside the room. You don't want the cleanout to be on the outside of the building. You want the cleanout for that fixture to be inside that room. And there it is. So there's a cleanout there. There's a cleanout. This cleanout is on the other side of the room. So I'm going to flip it to where it is inside that room. That one worked out all right. So that's note number 8. I'm going to put 8s to the cleanouts. And I'm going to point at the cleanout. Note number 8. And I want to move the W out of the way a little bit because it's on top of, it's right on top of the arrow. So I got to play with this a little bit to make it look right. Like that. This one's going to be easy. I'm just going to, instead of starting from scratch, I'm going to copy all of this. Copy from the middle of this line to the middle of this line and then mirror it. Like that. And then this one the same way. I'm going to erase that. I'm going to erase that and then copy it from here to the middle of that one, and then I'll mirror it so it sits on the other side like that. So that's number 8. There's also a clean out on the back of the building, and just for consistency then I'm going to point at the back. I'm going to point at the clean out itself. And then this is a grade clean out. That's grade is a fancy name for top of the outside world. In this case, the dirt. That's a great clean out. And then this is a clean out, but it's a special kind of clean out. And I didn't have a note for it in this drawing. But it's a two-way grade clean out. Two-way grade clean out. So that'll be note number 9. And so I'm going to change, because on all of them I pointed at the clean out itself. I'm going to flip this one up so that my note is not on top of this line. So I'm going to copy this one, copy from the center of that line to the center of that line, and then I'm going to mirror the whole thing. Well, I think I have to do it twice. I'm going to mirror it once to put it up on top, and I'm going to mirror it again. Let's try that again. I'm going to mirror it again till it's on the other side. And that's it. But that was note number 9, because this is a different kind of clean out than the rest. And let's look at see what those are real quick. Grade clean out. A grade clean out. Boy. Well, this is what it looks like in a diagram. It's a pipe underground. It turns up towards the ground or the floor, and there's a cap there. that you can open and stick and the plumber can stick the snake. They used to if there's a if it's clogged here somehow, they put a snake through this and they clean it out. What it Let me just see if I can find something that is not a diagram, but an actual picture of it. Here we go. This is one. So you'll see this in the floor somewhere. If you haven't paid attention, you may start noticing now. It's a brass plate. Sometimes on the floor, in the bathrooms, you'll find them. There's also the wall cleanout that we did, and I saw a diagram of one. Well, let's floor cleanout is what I just showed. Yeah, so that's a floor cleanout, and you see those in bathrooms or just in the floor generally. That's a good picture there. You would see that on the floor, and that's what those are. Those are cleanouts. Then here we go. This is what it would look like outside. So you see this little bit of pipe sticking out of the ground, and they're going to cover this hole with dirt, and all you'll see is this. This is a two-way grate cleanout. That's the one that's out front. That way you can stick your snake, your plumbing snake, and it'll turn that way, and it'll clear out the clog that's going in that direction. And then if you stick it in this side, it goes that way, and you can clean out whatever's backed up in that direction. So that's a two-way grate cleanout. One-way, this is the one that's at the back of the building, so you see this pipe sticking out of the ground right there, and it's usually the PVC with this square thing on cap, so you can put a wrench on it and turn it and open it. So that's a one way. That's a one way that goes in the back at the beginning. This is the two way that goes on the outside, right outside, as soon as we exit the building. And then the last, and of course we talked about the floor cleanouts. And the last thing, it's a wall cleanout. And what you see is something like this on the wall. Sometimes it has a metal plate that covers it. Let me just see if I can find one that. And you'll find them under sinks and things like that. So you really wouldn't see them unless you're looking for them. But so there's a pipe that goes up in the wall, and then there's a little thing that sticks out, and then there's a cover. So the plumber would put the snake through this hole and clean out any backups that are downstream. So those are all the cleanouts we need, and that's it. That's how you do a sewer line. As I mentioned, we still have to size the pipes. It's not a very difficult thing, and you can start doing it. Once you've done it enough, you don't have to look at the book. But this one's hard to do on a video because we have to look at a book and add up fixtures and do a little math by hand and then look at a table. So I can't do this on a video this way, but this is something that is easy to learn, and I'll show you in person.